What's going on, everyone? Brian here from PNW Vintage Outdoors. We're inside today, and that's because we have a big winter storm, and I wanted to go over some of the stuff I do when I'm not out on the river actually fishing. It's a little bit difficult right now, especially with the low temperatures and the difficult travel conditions, and rather than take a risk and end up getting in an accident or getting stuck or something like that, I decided that I wanted to share with everybody today my three top winter steelhead, summer steelhead, steelhead in general reference books that I go to when I'm looking for information on what might work best on that given particular day. And these three books I've had for a long time, with the exception of one that was just printed a couple years ago. And the thing with these books is that they are references, but they have a lot of good information, and they can really help you get some different ideas, especially when you're going after steelhead in general. They're difficult fish just in general to actually get onto. A lot of good information is out there, and YouTube is a place where we can get a lot of good information on how to target these fish and a lot of different methods that are used for targeting these fish. But sometimes it's good to have some kind of hard copy paper reference, especially if you're looking for something you can go back to repetitively, where you can get solid dimensions on leader lengths or hook sizes or any other types of presentations that you want to put out there for these fish. And it's a good way to learn a lot more about the fish species itself, and also get some ideas on different types of rods and reels and line and other stuff that you can try, especially if you're having some difficulty getting on these fish. So make sure you stay tuned to this, and if you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that like, leave a comment, and subscribe for more videos out of the Pacific Northwest. Now, let's take a look at these books. So the first book I want to talk about today is one that I started out with a long time ago, and it was the only real good reference for drift fishing for steelhead. And that happens to be the Color Guide to Steelhead Drift Fishing, and it's written by Bill Herzog. Bill has been in the spotlight of steelhead fishing in the Pacific Northwest for quite a while, and a lot of people know him. He had a radio show that he did up in Seattle. He still lives up in Washington. Super cool guy. I had the opportunity to meet him at the Sportsman Show last year, and he's just a wealth of information. He loves to talk fishing. He loves to talk steelhead. He loves to talk trout. Basically anything that'll grab a hook, Bill likes to talk about. But Bill wrote this very comprehensive guide, and this guide, it's been around for years and years, and I happen to have a autographed copy from Bill, which is pretty special because I had another copy, and I still have that other copy. But this book is fantastic. This came out in 1994, and the information is timeless, and especially in today's changing environment of new steelhead tackle, new techniques for targeting steelhead. A lot of the same principles apply. The reading the water principles apply. The different types of gear, the rods, the reels, the lines, the presentations, it all applies. This book will never go out of relevance because it has so much great information. It goes between winter steelhead and summer steelhead, which are our two main runs that we get here in the Pacific Northwest. It goes over reading water and what to look for, and height, temperature, water visibility. I mean, it goes right out of the gate into a lot of the technical information that you need. There's beautiful photographs in this book of a lot of the fish that Bill has had the opportunity to shake hands with. And then it gets into a lot of the great stuff about the terminal gear and rigging of these different types of drift fishing bobbers and tackle. You can see that, he goes up here, he gets into the good old traditional corkies, he gets into cheaters, he gets into the birdie drifter, which is a bygone lure. I think you can still find some. The Okie drifter, which is possibly the most ultimate steelhead drift bobber ever made, and even Bill says that himself. But there's other ones in here, such as Spinning Glows and Sammy Specials, which is this guy. right here, if you can see that. Some of these are no longer made anymore. Some of these you make yourself, like rags and sponges and yarnies. Even in this day, the rigging of the wacky pink worm, which is gone over in a different book that I'm going to share with you guys in a second, is all covered in here. Hooks, knots. It's a very good reference book, and I really suggest everybody looks into this book because it has all of the information to get out there and at least start pursuing these fish. And it doesn't require a lot of super expensive tackle. You'll want to make a good investment in a good steelhead rod, something with good sensitivity, a good reel with a good drag on it, good line. But all of the terminal tackle rigging in here is something that everybody can do. And really, even though Bill talks a lot about changing weights and what weights to run and all that kind of stuff, it is all dependent on your local river system. And so he always leaves this book open-ended all the way through. And I can tell you that I've been successful using these techniques on my local rivers because they work. They're absolutely relevant. And so it's definitely a good book to pick up. You can pick it up through Amato Media. And I'm sure that there's other outlets that sell this as well, but you can go to Amato Media and they have this book available. Definitely, The Color Guide to Steelhead Drift Fishing is a must-have for any steelheader here in the Pacific Northwest. It's a really solid book. It has a lot of great information, and it's a good starting point for a lot of people that are new to steelhead angling. Back in 1994, when this came out, I was walking through the local tackle shop, and I saw it, and I sat down with it, and I started going through the drift bobbers, and I was sitting over in the drift bobber aisle with the book open, looking at the drift bobbers and saying, okay, I think this one will work. I think this one will work. And I gathered up those drift bobbers, raided my dad's tackle box, everything else, and went down to the river, and I got fishing right away. I had effective lures. And so it's a great way for anybody new to steelhead fishing to really get a good idea of how to set up for drift fishing itself. So one good book there that everybody can check out. So let's take a look at the next few books that I have here, and we'll talk a little bit about those. The next book I have is another one by Bill Herzog, and is Spoon Fishing for Steelhead. Now, this book is no longer in print, so if you want to find this book, you're going to have to search high and low through used booksellers. And the thing about this book is that it's highly sought after, because one thing about spoon fishing is it's very versatile, and I've seen a lot of steelhead caught on spoons. But this book here really goes into the science of each individual type of spoon shape and its application, where it's used at, and then a lot of different techniques on spoon fishing. So you go through this book, and it talks about the very basic anatomy of this very basic lure. And the thing about a spoon is that it doesn't require you to spend a lot of money to get out and fish, much like the drift fishing, where your average drift bobber, if you're buying one brand new, is going to be anywhere from 13 to 20 cents a piece. You can really load up on those. $5 worth of tackle is going to get you a long ways. The same thing goes for spoons, depending on the types that you're using and which ones you're purchasing. $20 gets you on the river, and the terminal rigging that he goes over in here is not that expensive. But one of the coolest parts of this book is that he talks about the history of the spoon itself, and the spoon has a very, very long history. It's one of the first lures that was really commercially manufactured for the purpose of fishing itself. Prior to the spoon, people would make their own lures and they would do things like that. But if you look here, you go to Julio Thompson Bell. He made the bait maker. He was known as the bait maker of Whitehall. Buell discovered at 15 he loved to trout fish. And when he made that discovery, he started making his own lures, and he created the Buell spoon. And I could go through here and read this verbatim, but I would highly encourage you to look at the history of this and where he got his start there. But Lou Eppinger was the one that developed the Daredevil spoon, and he really brought spoon fishing to light. And this was around the end of World War I and everything else. So he actually, that gentleman right there, really brought spoon fishing to the forefront. It's a really fascinating history and a lot of the different lures and everything else, but it also goes into C.V. Clark, who really pioneered spoon fishing for steelhead. And when I say pioneered, he's the one that really got it turned on. But a lot of cool old spoons in here, different variants of different types of lures, everything else. It's a lot of fun just to read that section to learn a little bit about the history of the spoon and where it came from. But the other part of this is that it goes into the hydrodynamics of the different styles of spoons and how the water force works to actually make that lure work. And then it goes into a whole bunch of different spoons that are manufactured commercially. So there's a lot of different good stuff in here about the spoon, the history of the spoon, but then it really gets into why spoon fishing is one of the best ways for a beginner steelhead angler to get into steelhead fishing. And it talks a lot about the amount of time that you spend in one particular pocket of water, different techniques for those pockets of water, where we wouldn't traditionally think that we were going to find steelhead. There's an excerpt in here that Bill writes about vertically jigging the spoon in a deep hole and turning on that aggression strike from the steelhead itself. There's a lot of other information in here. What kind of fish are you really going to be getting with the spoon? And Bill really does underscore that a spoon fish is going to be a big fish. They're typically not going to get attacked by a small fish. They're going to get attacked by a big, heavy fish, because the big, heavy fish are the ones that are going to be the most predatory. They're going to be the most territorial, and they're really going to go on that attack. Positioning yourself. Even in his Drift Fishing for Steelhead guide, he talks about how to work a run. And this gets covered in a lot of YouTube videos, but it's like, you walk down 5 feet, cast. Walk down 5 feet, cast. But Bill really goes into, break down that water column, and he gives you a really good visual representation of how to break down that water column fishing spoons. So if you can find a copy of this somewhere, this book right here is worth its weight in gold. You're not going to get it cheap, but if you're looking for an awesome spoon reference guide, outside of YouTube, outside of what all of us do when we're talking about spoon fishing, whether that be for trout, salmon, steelhead, bass, pike, muskie, anybody can pick up this book, and it gives you an idea how to work faster water with these spoons. That's what it really goes into, and even the slow water with the spoons. So another great reference for these cold, icy days. Sit down, grab yourself a cup of coffee, and do a little bit of reading and research. Bill has put out this book as well. They're, again, not in print anymore. You're going to have to look online for it, but it's a worthy reference to definitely go after to learn more about going after steelhead, both summer and winter steelhead, with spoons. Let's take a look at this next book, because this next book's very special to me. So a really good friend of mine that I've made, basically from the point that he wrote this book onward, Randy Bonner. He is a writer for multiple publications, and he's just a fantastic person. He's probably the most well-rounded outdoorsman that I personally know. The guy, I've known him, I've talked to him, I've fished with him. He's just an excellent guy, and he wrote this book, and this book has really helped us revolutionize bead fishing, and this is called the Bead Fishing Bible. And you can get it directly from Randy if you want to. And I think, Randy, if you watch this video, which I'm sure you will, I would say that maybe Randy will actually autograph his book for you. I haven't had him autograph my copy yet, but I'll get you for this one, Randy. But the Bead Fishing Bible. And basically, Randy never claims to know everything about everything, and Randy's very humble about his experience and what he does, and he's just a pleasure to fish with on the river, because even when we're having a slow day, Randy's like, I'm just glad to be out here. I'm glad to be out here fishing and with my friends and hanging out. But Randy is a very thorough person when it comes down to the research of information, especially surrounding bead fishing. Last time we went out fishing, I had a jig rod, I had a worm rod, and I had a bead rod, and Randy has all 3 bead rods. And it's because Randy really believes in the effectiveness of a bead itself. He's very glued into the effectiveness of a bead. And that comes from Randy's personal experiences, not only guiding in Alaska, but also fishing the Pacific Northwest in general. This book, much like Bill's books, has a ton of excellent information on a lot of different presentations for soft and hard beads. Randy really goes in depth on why fish really like round things. And I think that it comes without saying. He's got a lot of photo evidence in here. Here's a picture of a nice little egg cluster of different embryonic eggs. There's Matt Halseth holding up a beautiful steelhead there. This is also Randy's mom as well. So I got you in there too. But you can see that Randy's information, just on the second page even, doesn't come without merit. And the thing is that when we're really looking at bead fishing for steelhead and using beads for salmon, steelhead, trout, we know that all of these anadromous fish are egg driven, and Randy talks about that right out of the gate. Fish like round things, and he puts a lot of proof into that. But Randy doesn't just put his own opinion in this book. He shares a lot of opinions and a lot of information from a plethora of different anglers and guides, and he's very smart about putting all of that information together and really building up that information. He shares a lot of different bead manufacturers in this book. So he's not just saying that one bead is going to be the do-all. He's talking about different bead shapes, different information. I mean, he's even going into researching what are the fish feeding on that time of year. He's got one opened up right here, and it's got all of these different types of eggs in different states of embryonic development, and this one came out of an adult steelhead, you can really get the proof in the punch. But when Randy gets technical, he gets extremely technical, and he's even got hook weights all weighed out and measured. He's got hook weights and hook dimensions for Gamakatsu, Owner, VMC, Raven, trout beads, eagle claw, and brads. He's got all of those hook informations. He's got hook gaps in here. This is truly a technician's guide to bead fishing. And there again, Randy doesn't claim to be the master of bead fishing, but he definitely has compiled information from a lot of very good anglers with their bead fishing techniques. He talks about T-pegging, peg knots, using rubber bobber stops to peg beads. He goes into different bead shapes, such as these, and what they do in their hydrodynamics. He also talks about pairing up beads with bait. He's got everything in here, and he really takes pride in making sure that he has all of these different types of baits and beads and presentations all put together in here. He goes over the bobber rigging. He goes over custom painting. This was kind of a funny excerpt out of here that I'll read to you. The selection of custom steelhead acrylic finishes at Fred Meyer Lodge on the Kroger Reservoir. Definitely. He's not trying to break the bank on the angler. He's trying to give the angler affordable solutions to be able to effectively get out and chase steelhead, salmon, trout, whatever you want to pursue. And he doesn't limit himself to just putting steelhead in here. Okay, he's got Arctic char down here, beautiful Arctic char. He talks about all of these different types of fish that attack beads. He's got a chum salmon a little bit earlier on. Here we go. We got a Chinook right here, choked up on a bead. So this isn't just a steelhead reference. I put it in here because we primarily use beads in the Pacific Northwest to target steelhead. But what I do is I like to say that this is a very comprehensive guide to fishing for steelhead using beads. However, who knows what's in the river? We got the in-between times and all that kind of stuff. That's definitely worth going after, but he also goes into something that is usually kind of poo-pooed by a lot of conventional anglers, and that's actually fly fishing with the beads. Fly fishing beads, beginner to advanced. And he talks about rigging on under a thingamabobber or some type of strike indicator. He talks about the Zen, which I thought the drawing here, the Zen of tapered leaders here. He's got all kinds of great graphics in here. A lot of great information, connecting knots, everything else. Very, very, very comprehensive book, and you do owe it to yourself. get a hold of Randy on social media. You'll look up Randall J. Bonner. You can also look him up here on YouTube as well. I'll drop links for all the information in the video notes below. But on these cold, freezing days where your reel's not going to work, definitely pay yourself a little bit of favor and do a little bit of research. But Randy's book here, fantastic book. Well, everyone, I hope you enjoyed that video. There's a lot of great reference books out there, and there's a lot of great reference information online. But there's just something about a hard copy book that you can't beat, and definitely show these two authors some love and go out and pick up at least one of their books. It's going to give you a lot of great information, whether you're a bait maker, whether you're a beginning steelhead angler, an advanced steelhead angler, or you're just looking for more information and some different ideas. These 3 books contain a lot of great information on those different subjects with those specific types of fishing, tackle, and presentations. So do yourself a favor, go out and look for these books. Nonetheless, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please don't forget to like, leave a comment, and subscribe for more content out of the Pacific Northwest. But until next time, everybody, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful day.